And we're going to now welcome Scott Cowley to the stage. Dr. Scott Cowley is an associate professor of marketing at Western Michigan University. He's the director of WMU's digital marketing and e-commerce program and the founder and advisor for digital marketing at WMU, which was the first digital marketing student organization in the country. Scott has a track record of innovation, having created projects adopted by universities worldwide. He's published research to help schools modernize their digital marketing curricula and coached multiple student teams to awards in international case competitions. He is also the winner of the Marketing Management Association Master Teacher Competition in 2022 and the Hawthorne College of Business Teaching Award in 2020. He is also co-author of Stukent's SEO Strategy and Skills. He loves time with his family, pickleballing, and biking. Scott, welcome.
Hey, what's up? Can you hear me?
I can.
Perfect.
You hear me?
I can hear you great. So I take it I'm just going to share my screen.
Yes, go ahead and share your screen. I'm going to hop off and we'll turn the time over to you.
Excellent. Let's do it. Well, hello, everybody. I'm going to pull up my slides and assume that you're seeing what I am seeing. I'm here to talk about teaching SEO using some YouTube-related projects, which is something I've been doing for the last few years with some really cool results. So this is one specific project. It's a project that will take roughly a week to do, or you could extend it longer if you want to provide additional training with some additional requirements, but I'll talk a little bit more about what that looks like, okay? Just brief background, before I became a professor and got a PhD, I worked in SEO exclusively. I started my career, my first digital marketing job was at a company called SEO.com. And I was literally going home at night and reading Search Engine Optimization for Dummies just so I could feel like I was getting up to speed. And now here I am 15 years later. I actually teach a full SEO and content marketing class here at Western. And I've actually published teaching articles on how to teach SEO, and really happy to have my name on the first complete SEO courseware with Stukent that has everything you need to teach this, even if you don't have a background in it. Every slide, all the assignments, and all the text, and we keep that updated annually. So hopefully look into that and consider whether it's a good fit for you. Why are we talking about SEO? So I've got a really fantastic tool that you can see the link to here that's created by LinkedIn that actually looks at the changes in the skills that are being represented by all sorts of different job titles. And if you look at digital marketing manager as a job title, you can actually see how have the skills mentioned by people with that job title changed over since 2015 until 2022. And you'll notice here up at 2022, SEO is like the second most mentioned skill by digital marketing managers. And so it's one of those things where if students are going to go into digital marketing, and I dare say if they're going to go into marketing, they should have some grounding in what SEO means. And so that's kind of what this project is about. And I think it's really critical to give them some hands-on experience so that they can actually understand the whole idea of getting traffic and rankings. So the other piece to this is I really like this concept of creating the T-shaped marketer, creating students who have a lot of breadth to their knowledge, but also a lot of depth in one particular area, which is what I've found. And I really don't even think we can give them the breadth in experience unless they are getting hands-on relevant experience of the type of projects that replicate what they're actually going to be doing once they're in a job. So this is one way to do that. Now, why are we going to use YouTube to teach SEO? Some of you here may know quite a bit about SEO already and might think of SEO as really traditionally focused on how do we optimize a website or particular web pages for searchers. Well, YouTube is also a huge search engine. YouTube could be considered the second largest search engine if we were to put it up against any other place that people search. We've got billions of active users, and consumers use YouTube to make lots and lots of their own purchase decisions. I also want to make the case for why YouTube is a great platform to teach and for students to learn and experience SEO for a few different reasons. One, we are in an age of video. Students know how to create video. They're comfortable with it. Most students own a smartphone, so that's not going to be really an issue. The other big things from a practical standpoint of why I like using SEO, YouTube to teach SEO are, if you create a video and you upload it to YouTube, YouTube knows about your video instantly. It's now available for YouTube to show to people. Whereas if you were to create a brand new website or a new web page, you're still going to have to wait and hope that Google even picks up on and indexes that website before you can even think about ranking. So with YouTube, it's instant. YouTube knows about the video as soon as you publish it. And the second big thing is that I've noticed this firsthand, that it is a lot easier to create a brand new YouTube channel and to create a brand new video on that channel and actually get some results and get some good rankings for a particular phrase and get traffic for that than it would be to do the same thing when you're just creating a brand new web page, like a blog post or something. So I've seen this firsthand, and I really want students to actually experience publishing something and seeing it get traffic during that same time period, during that same semester. Okay, so we've done that. We've got proof of concept. And so I want to walk you through how you actually could implement this in your own classes. I know I've got an SEO background. My hope is to make this as simple as possible. It's still going to be a process with particular steps to get through, but hopefully make it as simple as possible so that you can try it out yourself. And we've got material that you can refer to. We've even uploaded the assignment sheet that I use that you can access and modify however you'd like. Here's the first thing I got to do is I need to teach you what goes into what you see when you go search for something on YouTube. We have to break down the algorithm for students so they understand what are we trying to account for in the way we approach the creation of this video to give it as good of a chance of actually getting traffic. So I'm going to just do a quick walkthrough of the algorithm factors in a simplified way, and then explain how we take those algorithm factors and teach students to make a video that accounts for them to increase their chances. Okay, there are really three main factors that I want to focus on. One is the keyword relevance of that video. I like to say you've got to have all the right words in all the right places. Now, there are only so many places in a YouTube video that you can incorporate those phrases or those keywords. But that's, in a nutshell, we've got a few different places we can work in the phrase that we want our video to show up for. It could be the title. It should be the description. We should even mention that phrase in the video if we can within the video, because YouTube has the technology to auto transcribe the script of the video. And then we also have some video tags, not as important, but this is the big piece for all search engines. They're going to be looking to saying, is our content relevant to what somebody searched for? The second piece to this algorithm is viewer behavior. So YouTube is using a lot of machine learning to try and understand which videos are higher quality. They want to give higher quality videos to people who are searching. How do they determine what's high quality? They're using really imperfect signals. There's no way to perfectly say video A is better than video B in an objective sense. So we're using all these imperfect signals like, are people sticking through the video and watching for the whole length of it? Is it good enough? Is it getting traffic when people see that show up in search results? Are people clicking on it? Even if it may not be the #1 result, are they still clicking on it because it's got an attractive thumbnail? So we need to account for that. Is that video getting engagement? YouTube's going to recommend more popular videos with the assumption that there's something about those videos that is worth watching and therefore deserves to rank better and get more traffic. Okay, so we're going to try to account for as many of these things as we can in how the students create their own videos. And then the last thing is that YouTube is definitely prioritizing videos that come from established channels that already have a lot of watch time and a lot of subscribers. And here's in your cases where you're teaching students, most of them don't have a YouTube channel of their own. They're starting it from scratch. You do not benefit at all from #3 here, right? Students are going to have to overcompensate by doing a really good job with #1 and #2 so that they have a chance of ranking ahead of maybe more established channels, but it can be done. Here's the big overarching principle, and one thing that I try to get into my students' heads will really help them understand, like, how does an algorithm work behind the scenes to determine what order which videos show up in. And that's really these three big principles: relevance, viewer behavior, and channel strength. And if one video is ranking higher than another video for the exact same search, it must be because of number one, number two, number three, or some combination of those factors. We could even reverse engineer that and investigate. I've had students do that before. We'll actually just like go pick a search and diagnose the number one video versus the number 10 video. And we'll actually figure out what is it, which of these factors is it that's probably contributing to that higher ranking or that lower ranking, depending upon which video we represent. Okay. So these are the three main algorithm factors that students need to understand first so that they can translate those into how we approach making a video. Okay. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit at length about this first process of how do we get the right words in the right places. In SEO, we call this the keyword research process. It really is a process with a series of steps. And especially if you want students to ultimately create a video that is about a particular topic and do so in a way that actually gets traffic and actually gets rankings, then they're going to have to be very selective about which phrase they are trying to get that video to show up for. Okay, I've had way too many times where students pick a bad phrase and their video is never seen. And that's just how it goes. So if we get the process right, then it will result in a much higher probability that students actually create a video that benefits from some real SEO. So here's the process in a nutshell. One, we've got to figure out what's the student willing to create a video about. That's something people also search for. And I encourage students to think about their own interests, think about their own hobbies, their own sources of expertise. So it's best to start with something you're already excited about and passionate about, and then you can work from that to figure out how are people searching for that thing. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to actually need to go investigate and find some different ways that people search for that topic. We've got many different ways that we search for the exact same thing. So we're going to try to determine what are some different options that we have, different variations of search phrases that we might decide to pick. We want to have a few different options because then we're going to investigate each of those options to figure out a couple of things. One, how much do people actually search for each of those phrases, each of those options? And then two, how much existing competition do each of those phrases currently have in search results? Ideally, we are trying to get each student to find a phrase that people search for and is also low competition, okay? That they're not going to be competing with a bunch of existing videos or really high-powered channels for. That is the goal. If you can do both of those things, you've got yourself a video that will get some search traffic. Now, I really don't care so much about how much search volume, how much a particular phrase is really searched. It could be very, very little. I just want to know that some people search for it. The really, really important thing for me when I'm doing this project is helping students find a phrase that is low competition. That is more important than how much it's actually searched, okay? So let's talk about how do we even find things that are low competition that people actually search for. We know that we need to find different variations around the same topic, different ways that people search for the exact same thing. Here are a few different categories that I like to encourage my students to think about potentially doing for their own situations. Tutorials. A lot of people use YouTube to search for tutorials, and all of these are examples of different sorts of categories where there are likely to be some really long and really specific search phrases, okay? It's this type of keyword that we really like when we're starting out fresh. It's called long tail keywords. They tend to be really detailed and specific. Not so many people search for them necessarily, but there's almost always going to be a lot less competition, and that's the real important part. So I'll have students just brainstorm a few different things. It could be tutorials. It could be reviews of something they just bought that other people are probably looking for. It could be comparisons. There are a lot of A versus B searches that happen out there. Or you could just purely find a question that people are asking, and then your video is the answer to that question. So these are all good avenues for students to go down. Now, how do we actually know whether these type of variations are searched, or even what sort of variations exist? There's a really core basic way to try to understand what people are currently searching for. And that's by using YouTube's autocomplete suggestions. If you're ever on YouTube and you start to type on your keyboard a particular phrase, you know that YouTube is going to give you a drop down trying to autocomplete that phrase because it thinks it knows what you're going to search for. Anything that shows up in this drop down is a phrase that people actually search for. So that's really important. It's got to pass the drop down test. Otherwise, it's not a legit phrase that the student's going to be able to use. Okay. So, and I even do this when I'm spot checking a student's idea for a phrase that they want to use. I'll just start typing it into YouTube like this and see if it auto completes it in this way. Now, here's the nuance that you do need to be aware of is that once your phrase starts getting long enough and YouTube doesn't have any more phrases to recommend that people search for, it's going to start guessing what the next word in your phrase is. And that just purely off of machine learning, even though nobody actually might search that phrase. Notice that on the right, I've given an example of this. I start typing out how to make a book cover with human hair. Well, nobody searches for that, but you can still see that YouTube's got a drop down suggesting the word hair to me. I want you to notice the difference in the length of these drop down menus. The one on the left are the full length drop down. Those are phrases people actually search for. If the drop down collapses to where it's just recommending a single word, disregard completely. Those are not phrases that people actually search for. So students sometimes make this mistake of picking a phrase that they saw in a drop down example on the right, but nobody actually searches for that. So ultimately what you want to do is you want to end up with a set of different phrases that are really interchangeable when it comes to their meaning. I've just given an example here where you could pretty much interchange any of these phrases and someone's probably looking for the same sort of thing, the same sort of video as a result. So you want to have a few different options like this. And sometimes it's just a matter of playing around and trying different variations, considering how would normal people maybe switch up word order to try and search for different things like this. And you can get some ideas that way. As long as they pass the drop-down test, then it's a good option, okay? You can also use other tools to actually generate some of these ideas more quickly for yourself. So I'll showcase tools that are almost like Google's autocomplete suggestions on steroids. It's going to give you a lot more suggestions in a much faster period of time just by starting with, let's say, a short descriptive phrase that you want to be part of that longer topic, okay? Keywordtool.io is probably a really good one for this because they actually have a tab where you can get suggestions specifically from YouTube. You don't get that necessarily from Ubersuggest or SEMrush. Those are mostly giving you ideas based off of normal website searches, okay? So keywordtool.io is nice and easy. It'll give you a bunch of ideas for free. And so that's what I tend to steer students toward. Here's the next thing. Once we've got a few different variations that we could pick, now we need to see what's actually the best candidate from among those phrases. We've got to check a couple of things. We need to check and see how much are people actually searching for these things each month, each of these phrases, and what's the current competition level like for these phrases. Now, there are a few different tools that you can use for free to check what's the actual monthly search volume for a particular phrase. The one that I use that's pretty simple and free is just searchvolume.io. It's a website. Now, keep in mind, all of these, we do not have a keyword research volume tool for YouTube, okay? I don't know why it doesn't exist. YouTube, if you're listening. So all the volumes you get are actually Google search, okay? Not a big deal. We're just going to use that as a proxy for how much people are likely to be searching YouTube for that same phrase as well, okay? So in this case, I've created this little table, and I want your students to create a table just like this one to list out your different phrase options, find out the monthly search volume for those, and then the competition level. And that will give them a good sense of which one makes the most sense to use to get the most search traffic, okay? So you're going to check the monthly search volume now. Hopefully it'll actually show you a certain number per month. These numbers are all rounded, okay? So you'll never see like 7 searches, right? It's always going to be like 10, 20, 30, 100, something like that. And in some cases, you will find that the tool says there's no search volume for this, okay? Now, this is also one of those nuances to how we need to do this well and understand what's really going on. Some of these phrases like frost a cake with a butter knife, that's an example of a phrase where it passed the drop-down test on YouTube. I started typing it out. It was recommended. I know people search for it. But then if I go use an actual search volume tool and it doesn't show any searches, all that means is it is somewhere between 0 and 10 a month. It's just under the radar. And so it still counts, right? I know people are searching for it. It passed the drop-down test. It doesn't register any major search volume. It's still okay to use, okay? So students need to understand this. So go do that and just test out every phrase separately. And then we're gonna go check the competition level to see just how difficult is it going to be if we were to actually create this video ourselves on a brand new YouTube channel. How likely is it for us to see that video show up highly without a whole lot of extra work, knowing that we've got a brand new channel? Well, let's talk about how we actually check the competition for each of these phrase options that we've got. I first want to show you the example of checking the competition for a phrase that it turns out is actually really high competition. We're going to start with the phrase, how to frost a cake. Now, intuitively, you can imagine plenty of people have already created YouTube videos about that. And that's absolutely the case. What you're going to do to check one specific phrase to see how competitive it is you're actually just going to go do the search in YouTube. Just go search and see what shows up. See which videos show up in that search result page. What you're looking for, and I'll often just do like Control F and search the page for my phrase, is I want to see how often are existing videos using that same phrase in their video titles or in the video description, okay? And in this case, notice what happens. So I search how to frost a cake, I do that search, and I've got a whole bunch of videos on this result page that all say how to frost a cake in their title or in the description. And I can even tell, if you look closely, you can see some of these videos have hundreds of thousands of views, even 1 million plus views. And even the videos that don't use that exact phrase, how to frost a cake, they're all still about how to frost a cake, okay? And YouTube is smart enough to know, even if you're not using that exact phrase, they're smart enough to know that all these videos are about that topic anyway. So this is an example of a high competition phrase where we've got so much competition. If I were to create my own version of this video and publish it, no one's going to see it. No one's going to see it. It's going to be pushed so far out because I've got a brand new YouTube channel. I can't compete. So a student would not want to pick a phrase like that. Okay, obviously too high of competition. But let's look at an example of something that's closer to what we are really interested in going after. And often, if you find a phrase that's too high in terms of competition, maybe there's a longer, more long-tail variation of this phrase that would work. And here's a perfect example of how that works. While how to frost a cake is way too competitive, what I found is that there are variations on that search that are more specific. How to frost a cake with a butter knife. You can imagine you don't have any tools. You got to figure out how to do it yourself. And so you're going to YouTube to figure out how to do it with what you got. When we do this search to check the competition level in YouTube, notice, if you can, that none of the videos in this search result page are using that phrase, how to frost a cake with a butter knife. Not in the titles, not in the descriptions. Not only that, but none of these existing videos even allude to doing what we're trying to do here. No one's even mentioning knife, right? Like none of the videos are even close to that specific intent that we've got when we search for how to frost a cake with a butter knife. Does that make sense? This is the ideal. The ideal when not only do you not have any other videos using your phrase, but you don't even see many videos or any videos you talking about that same topic, right? If we were to think of synonyms. So that's really great. Now, can you still pick, can your students still pick a phrase even if there are some videos that seem like competition? I would say the answer is yes. As long as you don't have more than, let's say, 2 or 3 other videos that you're really competing with, then you should feel like it's okay to go forward with that phrase you picked, because you're going to also try to create a thumbnail for your video that's going to contrast and stand out from the other videos that you're competing with. Does that make sense? So even if you're number 3 in the ultimate search results, you could get a lot of those clicks just because you create a better thumbnail, and that could even help you move up in the rankings, okay? So this is what we're looking for. Low competition, people search for it. Great. That is the whole keyword research process in a nutshell. So what do we do once we've got that phrase? Well, we're going to use that phrase in all the right places of our video. We're going to use it in our title. We're going to try and work it in naturally into our description of the video as well. Notice what we've also done in this particular video description. This is something that's going to help your students get even more search traffic, and that is if you figure out what are other synonyms or variations or fragments related to the same general topic that might also be part of some people's searches. One thing we know is that people are searching all the time for using phrases that have never been searched before. We can't anticipate all the many ways that people search for things. And when we optimize well, we can attract and get traffic and rankings for lots of phrases that we had no idea even existed. So that's why we're trying to use the description section to incorporate additional related words or synonyms like I've done here. So notice I didn't just say how to frost a cake with a butter knife and just repeat what was in the title and just put that same thing and call it good in the description. I've talked about cake decorating. I've mentioned spatulas. I've mentioned round cake, cake in a pan. I've mentioned the fact that it's a video tutorial. Some people are using that phrase, video or tutorial. I mentioned the word walkthrough, tricks, tips, frosting. Notice all the different things that we can do. And then we also have a few tags that we can use to help YouTube understand the substance and focus of the video. So this is how we have students optimize the video, is make sure that whatever that phrase is that they're targeting, that one primary phrase, that's got to be in the title and it's got to be in the description, and don't mess with the word order. YouTube probably knows that it's what it's about, even if you had a different word order, but let's just maximize our chances. That's how I feel about it. Okay, we've got the video done. Well, we got the optimization part done. This may be a little bit backwards because we all then need to talk about how do we take advantage of the other parts of YouTube's algorithm, the machine learning and behavioral signals that are going to help YouTube feel like our video is high quality and worth showing to people. So we've got 3 different things that we care about: getting people to stick around through the duration of the video, trying to get people to visit the video by bringing them there from the search result page by having a really good thumbnail, and also by driving engagement on that video. And so those are the things that students are going to have a plan for. And so let's talk about how I have students try to incorporate these different factors into their own videos. In terms of viewer retention, these are a lot of the same things that our modern YouTubers do all the time. One is just jump right into the topic. You might even repeat the phrase that people are searching for right at the beginning of the video so people know they're in the right place. Don't have a long intro. Jump right into it. Start providing value as soon as you can. There's a concept called open loops, which you'll see a lot of times, and they come by different names, but the whole idea is that if you mention something at the very beginning of the video that will be coming later in the video, then people are more likely to stick around because they know what they'll get if they do that. So that's going to help your video retention. You've got to verify your YouTube channel in order to have the ability to create a custom thumbnail for your video. So that's really, really easy to do. And then you also, if we want to drive engagement, I have students do a couple of things. One, make sure at the end of the video, you ask specifically for engagement to try and drive those behaviors. And I also make students, as part of the grade for this assignment, to get 5 likes and 5 comments within the first 24 hours of publishing. Now, there's no perfect number for how much that is. When I tried this out myself, I tried to get something more like 20 likes and 10 comments, but I'm just saying 5 and 5. They can even coordinate with other people in order to make that happen. Marketers do this all the time. But one of the things that we know is that you can't just have your friends go click like and comment without watching the video. YouTube can pick up on that really easily. So students are going to need to make sure that whoever they're having do that actually exhibits the behavior of a normal, happy viewer when they're watching the whole video. Does that make sense? So that's kind of how we optimize as best as we can for trying to make sure our video is higher quality and signals some of the right things to this algorithm, okay? So here's a little mini story of how I ended up doing this myself. I was teaching my students about how this works in practice, and used the how to frost a cake with a butter knife example. And then I went home and I was telling my wife about this, and she thought, she told me, well, why don't you just do it? If this is supposed to work, just do it and prove it. And so, of course, I'm an SEO by background, so yeah, we better prove it, even though I had no background making YouTube videos, and I have absolutely no background teaching people how to frost cakes. But I came up with my own exotic approach to this, and I made the video, and I did all the same things that I'm asking my students to do. And if there's one thing I can tell you when you do this assignment that will make you so much better at helping your students, it is you've got to do it first. You've got to go try and make that yourself first, and then ask your students to do it and show them that you've done it too. Okay. So I made this video. It's called How to Frost a Cake with a Butter Knife. Instead of using a screenshot from the video as my video thumbnail, which YouTube lets you do automatically, I took a screenshot and then I put it in Canva, and I just added some text to help the title of it stand out. Okay. And within a few days, my video is ranking #1 on YouTube and on Google. When people search for that same thing, Google's going to determine if they should pull in video results. And so now here I am a few years later, and I think I've got, let's see, like 20,000 views on this video all about how to frost a cake with a butter knife. I'm #3 right now. If you search for it, I'm still there, but I'm like #3. All the people during COVID went and started making cake videos, so so I can't compete anymore. But it's really cool, and just shows proof of concept. I've even had students message me because they followed my instructions themselves, which is absolutely lovely. Thank you, Lainey, for doing that. Let me show a couple of examples of students who have really seen a lot of success with this. I mean, the thing I love about this project is it's public work. Students are going to see the public results from other people they don't know engaging with this. Thomas is my best case study for how crazy successful this can be. He made a video all about how to use chopsticks to eat noodles. And just like me, he has no business teaching anybody how to do this. But his video today has 264,000 views, and the comments on that video are absolutely hilarious. This is a rare case, right? This is non-typical results. I got to make sure that we've got that disclaimer, okay? But it's wonderful. I've got other students who have gotten tens of thousands of views on various things, right? Could be tutorials, could be food related, could be comparisons. I even have Damian Arthur here. Damian's another marketing professor actually out in the Emirates, and he tried this out himself. His video's got 50,000+ views today. So just goes to show any professor can do this, any student can do this. And I like to create projects where my students are going to totally outdo me, some of them. So that's the potential for this. If you want, now I don't do a ton of this, but if you want, you can also bring in YouTube analytics into this, right? Students can actually see how good is their viewer retention. They can actually see the different phrases that are bringing traffic to their video. I recommend have them publish this sometime early in the semester, and then check back in sometime later to see what the results have been. Okay, that could be a month or something, just to see if you've got stuff. So if you want to teach them to use some of this, then you can do so. I might even give extra credit for them to check back in and put a little report together on how their video is doing and pull in the analytics. Okay, and then I'll share some last tips about doing this yourselves. One of the things that you can do is there are lots of different ways for students to check their own ranking without having to just scroll through the search results for their own search. So you can have them do that in a much faster way. You will always get better results if you actually have students show you what their plan is for which phrase they're going to try to target before they go and do it, just so you can both verify that that is actually something that's low competition and people actually search for it using the drop-down test. If you want, now I do not provide a whole lot of training or any real resources when it comes to video creation. That's what I love about this, is students don't have to be really pro video creators or editors. I'm certainly not. Some of them are actually absolutely going to take and use this as a portfolio piece and do that. I would say if you are going to start judging them on how much editing or the production quality of it, you're going to need to give them a little bit more time and some prep and some resources to do that. I haven't typically done that, and I'm able to do this assignment in about a week turnaround. when I grade this, I typically grade mostly on how well they have applied all the different principles that I talked about go into that algorithm. I'll give a chunk of points just for producing the video and doing it in a way that there's good lighting and good sound. So that's just some easy ways there. If you want, I'm happy to even send you like the rubric that I use for like the little checklist type stuff that I am looking at when I grade these with the report that they turn in. You can do this as an individual project, or you can do it as a group project. I've done both of those things. Typically, when I have students do it individually, I'll have them plan out 2 different videos, 2 different sets of keyword research on different but related topics, knowing that they're only going to ultimately choose to do 1 video on 1 phrase within one of those topics. Okay. So that is everything for you today. And hopefully you found that this resonates, that you think that your students might get excited about it. I've got more resources on how to teach SEO in more traditional ways with website stuff on my website, or you're happy to send me an email. I can send you the assignment sheet. I can send you the rubric that I use, or I can even send you the academic journal article that gives you some more info on how to walk through this yourself if you want it in reading version. Okay. So thank you very much.
Scott, thank
I'm
you.
done.
This was great. And I want everyone to know that we are going to find Scott's video, and we will link that so that everyone can see how to frost a cake with a butter knife. I can't wait to watch it.
Yeah, if we had extra time, I would actually show you, like, just watch the first minute of the video, and you will see me putting the viewer retention principles into practice at the beginning of my video. And if you watch the very end, you'll even see like my really cheesy call to action to get some engagement on it. But yeah, it's a good time.
We will link so that everyone can watch it. We do have some questions for you. Okay.
Cool.
The first question is, what are the current trends and changes in search engine algorithms that are affecting SEO strategies?
Well, that's a big question. I mean, no SEO that you ask is going to say anything other than AI. There's a ton more content out there that's all AI generated. And as a result, Google's really having a hard time trying to figure out which of this content is good or not. So we're seeing a big shift in the type of content that Google says it's prioritizing. It really wants to prioritize more content that is written by humans, even though it can't really tell, but offers firsthand personal experiences that by people who know what they're talking about, who have credentials. So we're seeing that a shift in Google really trying to say, hey, look, when you write stuff, make sure you write it in a way that is actually going to be beneficial to people and prove that you know what you're talking about and have firsthand experience. So that's why it kind of, where Google's already going is perfect for this assignment that's already hopefully relying on students' own firsthand experience with these things. I should say, like, do as I say, not as I do, and making stuff that you don't know anything about.
Okay, next question. How do you stay updated with the latest developments and best practices in the SEO industry?
Hey, that's a great question. The reality as a professional SEO, the truth is that the core principles of what goes into Google determining what's relevant and what's authoritative enough do not change all that much. So, you know, there's rarely an article or a big algorithm change that is going to dramatically shift my mentality or approach to creating really good content. I mean, I would say a lot of people would recommend searchengineland.com as a good authoritative place that's going to document any of the major changes that are likely to impact marketers at the ground level in some realistic sense. So that's one easy way. You can even subscribe to their like newsletter. It just has links to the stories, I believe. That might be a very easy way to stay up to date, or just follow those accounts on whatever social media platform you're already using, just so that you bring some of that across your view on a more regular basis.
Great, that's helpful information. Similar to the question that Nicole received in her session, how do you encourage students to build and help them build their confidence while they're creating these videos?
Well, I think that's where it was so beneficial for me to do it myself first, as somebody who I wouldn't say was that comfortable being on video. I definitely have no real video experience. My wife is a film minor, so she actually helps me do a little bit of video editing just to cut out some of the choppy stuff. But I think students can when you're vulnerable with your students and they see that you're trying to be a creator just like them, that will really kind of set the tone for it's okay to not have a perfect product, right? Um, we're here to learn. The university is the workshop for us becoming more confident and competent at some of this stuff, even though we're doing stuff that could be seen by a lot of people. I think maybe they stress themselves out too much by coming up with crazy scenarios of the worst thing that could happen and catastrophizing it without really needing to. So I don't make my students appear on camera if they don't want to in their videos. We do need to hear them. Like there does need to be some spoken language in it, because that's part of what we're trying to do in optimizing the relevance of that video. But I don't make them have to like be showing themselves or having to appear or perform in it. So that's easier.
Yeah, no, those are great tips. I like that. You spoke a little bit about AI in your first question that you answered, but this question is, what challenges have you seen with AI in SEO, and where is it lacking and where does it thrive?
Yes, that's multifaceted. I'll tell a quick story. I've got a student who I follow on LinkedIn, and I observed that the student one day looked like she had created a brand new website, and she was writing blog posts on this brand new website. These blog posts seemed very personal in nature, like my experience as a digital marketing student. And I'm like, ooh, I want to see what she says, right? I definitely want to read that. And so I go read this article, and I read another article or two, and it doesn't take long before I realize that this student didn't write any of this. Okay. It was very, very clear. There were two tip-offs to me. One is the spelling and grammar were perfect. That shouldn't be a tip-off, but it is. Perfect spelling and grammar. That's a giveaway. And second, it was the most boring stuff I'd ever read. Most impersonal, had no firsthand experience, no stories, nothing like that. That is what AI does. AI is going to create really impersonal, unmemorable, ineffective stuff. And I mean, I commend the student for trying it out. Maybe she was just trying to make some money with some ad dollars on a brand new site, seeing if she could do it. That's cool. The problem is now you've got content out in public that is just going to show people that you're a bad writer. So that's the real hard part. I find personally, I use AI a ton as a substitute for Google when I know that the answer to my questions is out there somewhere, but I don't want to have to crawl through a whole bunch of stuff just to get it, especially if I know that I'm going to need to pull things in from varying sources. So that's what I tend to use it for. It definitely has its strengths. I just met with like 35 former students during last month. I went on a little road trip just to meet up with former students, and I asked every single one of them, how much AI are you using in your job right now as a digital marketer? Very little.
Oh,
in reality.
really?
Occasionally with like writing search ads when you've got to write a whole bunch of headline variations, but very surprisingly very little in terms of day to day is what I found, and I'm not actually that surprised by it.
Interesting. Okay, just a quick follow-up. Christina's asking if you mentioned that they don't have to be on video, that they can do a voiceover. She's asking if this helps in the optimization.
Absolutely, it does. I mean, we don't know to the extent that it does, but YouTube is doing auto transcriptions of the text and the audio of their videos. They can tell if you've actually mentioned the thing that you say that that video is about. So that's why I make every student have to have like some spoken dialogue and refer to the topic of their video, because we know that that's likely to make a difference. Even though you can use captions as well, because certainly it's going to help with accessibility, and people like those too. But from an SEO standpoint, absolutely, we want to make sure that people are hearing stuff in addition to seeing it.
Yeah. Well, great. This is another question from Christine. She says, my university won't allow us to work with brands. They view it as competing with local ad agencies. So I have students work with brands as a mock activity. We don't have a student-run agency to work through. How do you really have the students work with brands, is her question.
Well, that sounds like a question that's maybe outside the scope of what I just talked about in this video. But I mean, I have students work with brands all the time. We're even doing like a sponsored project right now for a brand that's literally just making a donation to our program, and in exchange for students actually competing to in the same way that they were doing it, as if they're doing a real case competition for that brand. So I like nonprofits, but I also like for-profit companies. We end up having access to more resources and able to do more creative stuff. It really just depends. I'm very much an opportunist, always having my eyes open for what are organizations or interesting situations where I think students are going to be really engaged by them and able to make a real impact, instead of just a pity project that a company's willing to do with the students. I really care about impact more than anything.
Great. Young asks, what are some unique characteristics or differences of YouTube SEO compared to traditional SEO? Is there something traditional SEO, let's see, is there traditional SEO knowledge not working well in YouTube SEO?
So I can answer this in a pretty simple way. In fact, I'll even show a slide to my students that shows how similar YouTube SEO is compared to regular website SEO. They both have a heavy keyword component, right? You've got to have the right words in the right places. That's the same in both web pages and video. How these search engines determine whether your video or your content is high quality is pretty different, though. In YouTube's case, they can use these engagement, retention metrics, that kind of stuff. But on web pages, they don't have, they've got some click data. They're using machine learning to see what do people actually click on and which pages do they stay on. But that's where links are really a huge element to web page SEO. Are other websites actually linking to your pages as a sign that they're voting for you, that's actually good enough that other people would tell their audiences about it? There's not really the same sort of link equivalent on the YouTube side. So that's really where we see the big difference. But Google and YouTube are using a lot of machine learning increasingly in both of those areas to try to get closer and closer to real signs of what is quality, of what is relevant for the audiences based on their actual behavior.
Great. Okay, Scott, one last question. We mentioned that you are the co-author of Stukent's SEO curriculum. The question is, how do you balance theoretical knowledge with practical hands-on exercises in your curriculum?
I usually start practical and then I back out into the theoretical, meaning that everything practical that we do is based on some principle for why we are doing that. And if you understand the principle at the same time that you understand the practical, you will increasingly make good decisions in the future. And you'll be able to adapt much more easily to changes in the industry, changes in practice. Occasionally we see people who are all tactical, and those people just milk a tactic until it stops working and then try to find something else. That really happens in SEO quite frequently. But I think, our whole role as educators, we got to turn students into better thinkers, better communicators, better writers, better at being good marketers and ethical and responsible marketers, and not just contributing to the junk that's in the world.
That's great. Love it. Scott, thank you so much for joining us today. Love your projects, your activities. They're very engaging, very awesome, very fun.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Thanks everyone for coming.